This video supported in part by...
It's just a VR YouTube channel.
Ever since I picked up this tiny arcade pole position a few weeks ago, I've been eager to take a look at it and review it here for a few reasons. It's an Atari title, it's a racing game, and it's the first tiny arcade with no joystick. Sort of. Kind of. I'll get into it.
Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown up.
Hey there, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thank you for checking out this video and the rest of the channel. So we're talking today about pole position, specifically the Super Impulse Tiny Arcade version of pole position. Now you probably remember the original pole position from 1982. I remember pole position in the arcade as being one of the first driving games where I didn't feel like a car, I felt like a driver. You had that analog gas pedal, you had the steering wheel that was analog, you had to manage whether you were at high or low gear, so if you lost momentum, you had to drop it in low to kind of get your speed back up again, and then throw it in high for the race. There was a lot more to it than just moving your car around in a circle, and I loved that about pole position. Now, since pole position is a very early arcade game, and not that complex by most standards, I have high hopes for it on this tiny arcade. Now, I mentioned it didn't have a joystick. It kind of does. They actually have a joystick, but they have a little steering wheel topper on the joystick just to add that extra nudge of authenticity to the little cabinet on your shelf. Okay, steering wheel or not, let's take a look at this pole position and see how it stacks up. You know, I didn't even notice when I picked this one up, but it looks like it's had a bit of a hard life. It's kind of torn here, and you can see the corners kind of shattered there, but that's just, I think, this exterior box. So many of these tiny arcades, you know, come in this clear box, so you can see the interior of the artwork on the cabinet, which in this case really pays off because look at that beautiful original, almost entirely original pole position artwork, just kind of scaled and cropped based on the dimensions there. But yeah, let's get into this thing. We got that giant yet tiny Super Impulse catalog in there and some instructions that we're not going to use. And here he is out of the box. Let's get a better look at that side artwork. That's just that classic Atari, like oil painting style artwork that they had on their cartridges. They were also using on some of their cabinets here. And it's a shame that many people didn't get to see this because they were jammed against other cabinets. The cabinet itself is the typical mold that you've seen from these Super Impulse tiny arcades. Here it is next to this Pac-Man. I mean, it's just pretty much identical except for the obvious changes to the controls. And speaking of the controls, this is probably the most intriguing part of this. Rather than a joystick nub here, they have a steering wheel, which in reality is just a different top on the joystick nub, but I appreciate the little tiny detail there that's added. You got two buttons, which is typical. I quite like this current trend of decorating the kick plate not just with artwork, but also with simulated coin insert doors. That just adds that little extra oomph. And the speaker is right down here on the bottom with a little grill. And around the back we have the battery door, we have power on, off, and this, once again, laughable keychain. I think I'll go ahead and take that off right away. What always sells me on these tiny arcades from Super Impulse is just how pretty the cabinet is. I mean, it's going to look great whether you turn it on and play it or not. I did notice, of course, there's no gas pedal down here on the bottom right that would have been on the original. I didn't expect that on a tiny version. I mean, I'm not going to put my foot there, obviously, so I'm sure that's probably handled in the buttons itself. But speaking of, I think it's time to get into some gameplay and see how this little pole position fares. Hey, there's the screen, that little lighted marquee we've come to expect from these Super Impulse items. I love that they add that. It's that little extra detail that really makes the difference in many cases. All right, let's try to get our game started. There's the music, nice. Prepare to qualify. Hey, and his speech synthesis is there. Gas? Yeah, it's gas. Yeah, the steering wheel is just a joystick, as I suspected, which is fine. So, should be no cars on this lap, because we're just qualifying. Oh, there is water, though. There's no shifting at all. That high-low shifting is not present from pole position, but it handles nicely. The strategy is about the same. This looks really good. Now's the real race. Oh, somebody hit me already. This plays incredibly well. Look at all the old classic iconography on the billboards. I saw Pac-Man, I saw Galaga out there. You just kind of got to tap the joystick / steering wheel. Even though it's a fake steering wheel, I appreciate that they did a steering wheel at all. Yeah, there's a lap. I don't have many, if any, complaints about this. I wish it shifted. I wish high-low was in there. You know, speaking of which, what's this other button for? it's a brake. I will say that my index finger hurts a bit from holding down on this one button the whole time. But I'll get over that. Sounds like my engine's going to explode. Ooh, a billboard. Ouch. Sorry, Galaga. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is pole position. And a fantastic version of it. This might be the most faithful port of an arcade game on this tiny arcades yet. So I finished a race. I'm not sure how many times I was able to do that on the original arcade machine. Gee. Wow. I guess the last little bit is to see whether or not that high score saved. I mean, everything else has been great so far. I don't even think I'll hold it against it if it doesn't. Let's see. Off and back on. No high score saving. But yeah, okay. Again, I'm not going to hold that against you. Everything else, the presentation, wow, okay. This review almost writes itself. This may turn out to be one of my shortest review summaries ever. This little pole position is way better than I expected it to be. The scrolling is smooth, the control is fine. This is one of those rare occurrences where all of the little compromised decisions that Super Impulse made to cram that full arcade game into this little toy were the right decisions. It ended up not hurting, but actually helping the little handheld experience. So what else can I do? I give this little pole position tiny arcade from Super Impulse 4 tokens out of 5. I might have even gone an extra quarter or half token if this had high score saving, but that's a trivial item and not even really worth nitpicking. If you're looking for some handheld pole position, you're not going to go wrong with this tiny arcade from Super Impulse. Hey, I really hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, you made it to the end. If you liked this video, the best way to say thanks is to watch one more. Here are a couple suggestions that you just might enjoy. And if you love our content, maybe consider becoming a Patreon supporter by following the link on screen.
Unacceptable for grown-ups. Your dinner cannot just be french fries.